So bad times happen, but even though a whole bunch of people are going through some stuff right now, you got to look at it. You got to always try to look at stuff on a good point. All right. So if you're a government worker, you're sitting home right now, you're still on call, but you're sitting home. Maybe it's time to I don't know, clean the garage or whatever, something that you've been putting off this whole time. Maybe you got a room that's you've been putting off painting. The paint's just been sitting in the corner kind of deal, and you're just waiting to do it kind of deal. Um, Maybe this is the time you want to take up a hobby like drawing or whatever. Um, a low dollar hobby, obviously. Something like drawing, kind of deal. Drawing, singing, whatever. Um, it's you, fill in the blank. Maybe this is a good time to take up something like that. You still got to be available. You still got to be on call. Maybe you still got to freaking work, even though you're not getting paid. But for every downside, there is an opportunity. I believe it anyway. Now, it might not seem like that, but there might be an opportunity, kind of deal. Um, yeah, I can hear the BS right now. BS. I'm screwed. I'm sleeping in my car right now, kind of deal. Um, well, if you're sleeping in your car, you're not. You got money, or you're not $1,000 a month in rent. $1,000 deeper in rent every month because you're sleeping in your car. There's a kind of good deal, I guess. Everybody's on a different deal. Everybody's got different situations, and it is what it is. Um, but you make it work. You make it work. No matter what it is, you can make it work. No matter what it is, there's always a potential to do something better out of it. Potential to turn it into something better. And at some point, if you got like 8 kids and if you got like 8 kids and they got to feed them all kind of deal, well, maybe you figure out something where you can get some help through a place, and then maybe you actually do something through a local uh, like a farmer or whatever, or maybe you having 8 kids means later on you got uh, 8 kids to maybe take care of you later in life. So yeah, I mean, there's always potential, even in problems, even when you're in the junk, even when you're in the stuff. There's always potential. Um, uh, Maybe if you're sitting on a layoff, you can do something else. You can like I don't know how to say that. You can research how to do a business or whatever, because you got all this time to research. Maybe you learn a new skill. Nothing says you can't be on call, and during that on call time, be doing stuff. Unless you're a truck driver, and that's part of the reason why I got out was I actually couldn't do anything legally on my time off. I couldn't like make a business on the side because you're supposed to be sleeping and all that, and you can't be doing a business on the side when you're supposed to be sleeping in the truck, because later on, if you did get in an accident and they could prove that you were out of the truck for let's say 6 hours of the I think it's 10 now, I don't remember. I think it's 10. So if you were out of the truck for 6 hours before you took off, kind of deal, maybe you were, I don't know, shipping some jewelry because you were selling jewelry out of the semi as you're doing OTR or whatever. Maybe you swing into, I don't know, I didn't know how that would work. But maybe you do something like that where you could sell stuff out of the truck somehow, kind of deal. And they found out, or a lawyer found out, they're going to catch you there. So, even something on the side like making a course or making something. Now, I mean, that's not saying you couldn't do that, but anyway, back to my point. So if you had some time off right now, not time off, if you're on call right now, or maybe you are laid off kind of deal, put your time in. Like if I was a government worker right now, I'd be applying everywhere. Because if this isn't going to work, if this happened to me a couple years ago and then it happened to me now and it's probably going to happen to me in another 3 or 4 years, you better be paying me something stupid. You better be giving me some stupid benefits, and those benefits better be backed by something that says they're not going to disappear in a year. Otherwise, yeah, you know what? I'm not doing this again. I'm going somewhere else. Maybe I'll start my own thing, There's nothing that says if you're sitting at home on call right now as a government worker, you can't start your own thing. There's so many things you can start these days. Everybody says this is the worst of times. No. Look at like the 1920s. All right? People were living, everybody's like 1920s. I think it's a crash. No. People were living in shacks up to before the crash. People were going into debt up their eyeballs. They were so far up and upside down on credit and everything in the 1920s. People only talk about the good winners there. There was a lot of losers in the 20s. A lot of losers, and then the whole thing hit, and then there was losers all the way through the 30s and 40s. And, it wasn't until like the late 30s that the government started to play around. But yeah, like all the way into 20s into 30s. That was a horrible time. You had diseases that weren't cured yet. You had things like polio that was around. You had a world war that we just got out of, and everybody's broke. You had food lines that and then you had like the government saying that they weren't feeding the people. The food lines that you see were community food lines. Those weren't like government food lines. Eventually they stepped in, but for a long time there, the government wouldn't even step in and feed people. So everybody's like, this is the worst time. This is the worst time to be alive. No. Do your history. Go even further back. Do some more history even further back. Trust me. This is one of the worst of times. This is just a huge bump and a thing we got to get through. And there's more opportunity today than any other time. You can go out, start a business, maybe you make a product, whatever. You could start a business tomorrow where all you do is 3D print stuff. All you do is 3D print stuff. If you tell people to send me whatever, and you 3D print it, or you cut things, because a 3D printer is like what, at least $1,000, a good one, a decent one, between $1,000 and $2,000. But if you only need, if somebody could print you something for $20, your own little design, you make it and do whatever. All that, and then you just send them the file, and then maybe you go to their website and they got the program right there. You design your little nifty thing, you pay them $20 and they send it to you, and it costs them maybe $2 to make because they're professionals and they know how to do it, and then you pay them $20 and with or without shipping. I ain't playing around with that, and then there you go. You got your thing for $20 instead of spending $2,000 on a printer, learning how to use it and play around all that, there's a business. That's just one business. I'm sure there's tons of people doing it. Years and years ago, probably like 5 to 10 years, everybody had a 4x4 or 6x6 CNC table, and they were cutting metal. Everybody was cutting metal. That was a big thing for a while there. Same deal. Somebody would send you a file, or you'd send them to a site to make the thing, or you would even supply it. They'd send you a crappy drawing, and you would go back and forth. You would charge them for the going back and forth, but then you go back and forth, and there you go. You'd cut that thing out and send it to them, and now you got bigger businesses. That kind of killed that for the little guy, but there's a business, and maybe you sell uh, uh, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head. I want to say cotton candy. Yeah, sure. Maybe you sell cotton candy. You know, um, like cotton candy, stupid light, probably easy to ship. Just don't get it wet. Um, but and there you go. You could probably sell cotton candy. I don't know how you do it, but whatever. I'm not into the logistics, but let's say you could do it really easily, so that it's stable and can go across the country, kind of deal. Um, and you sell cotton candy. You know how easy it is to make cotton candy? You know how fast it is to make cotton candy? Kind of deal. You can make a business out of that. Maybe you come up with some cool little flavors, and if one doesn't work, well, you're out maybe $30. But if one does work, you're selling the things for like $15 for a pound. Or not a pound. $15 for a 12 by 12 by 12 cube box, okay? 12 by 12 by 12 box for $15, and it probably cost you $3 to make it, and there's your profit. And you just send that all out and make it all work. There's so many businesses that can be made these days. That's just a couple things off the top of my head. There's so many business ideas that you can do these days. Now, maybe food wasn't the best choice there because you got a whole bunch of concerns with food and whatever. Maybe use something crazy. I don't know. Maybe you do sell something with peanuts in it. And it seems like everybody's allergic to nuts these days, kind of deal. So you got to be a little bit careful. But there's so many different ways to make a business. Like I do eBay because it's stupid simple, and I make like 20 to 40%. What other thing can you take $1 and turn it into $4? That's a good margin. I mean, that's a good margin in my book. Now, more than 4, but that's the ratio I go for. 1 into 4. If you can go 1 into 4, you end up with a good ratio. Actually, it's got to be higher than that, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, I aim for 30% as a minimum. That's net. I aim for 30% above. And those are good margins in my book. That's good investment in my book. Kind of deal. And that's just one thing. That's just eBay. Everybody can do eBay. Everybody can do eBay tomorrow. It's not only eBay, it's the other ones. I ain't even going to list them off. You know who they are. But you can do all that tomorrow. And it's not a hard business. It's labor intensive. You got to like doing it. More than you got to like doing the whole back end of it. But whatever. And it doesn't have to be the 1 into 10. Like, you can start doing the little things and then figure out what you like doing and move into the big things. Like right now, I got I don't know, 90 different categories going on because I'm pretty much going for just this into this. I'm not going for I only sell this kind of deal. I'm testing the waters and I'm learning a whole bunch of new things, I do got an end game, but I'm not there because part of that 30% deal is buying equipment. Not out of my pocket. That's a thing. I maintain square body trucks for the business. It's a business expense. All right. I like old square body trucks. How do I make square body trucks work? You have the business. Square body truck is a business vehicle. And there you go. Now I can drive around these square body trucks without shelling out $2,000 or so out of my pocket every year for maintenance because the stuff goes bad. They're high maintenance items, high on gas, or horrible, decent high maintenance vehicles because they're from like the 80s. Dang near everything has to be replaced. They are horrible mileage vehicles, but they get the job work done. They get it done, and they're reliable. So they're great for business vehicles, but that's an example. I like square bodies. And it doesn't always make sense to do this. Just an example, it doesn't always make sense. But there you go. You can get yourself equipment through a business that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get. That personally, like a 2-post lift, that's on my plan. Because, I'm doing a whole bunch of small stuff now, but later on I want to actually be doing cars. And I've always wanted a 2-post lift. Always wanted one. But honestly, $5,000 to, let's say, $15,000 for something that personally I would probably never, I could never justify it. I would never use a 2-post lift personally for, I drive a lot of cars. I drive a whole bunch of vehicles. But I would never be able to justify a 2-post lift. Now, if I have it for a business and I'm tearing apart, let's say, 4 cars a year, then it makes sense, because then I can pull engines a whole bunch easier. Then I can do engines and transmissions and get everything tore down a heck of a lot easier with that lift. So it's a justified expense. Now, something that big, you're going to have to go a couple of years to pay it up tax-wise, but that's one of those things. And then you can use it. It's business. And then, it's one of those deals where you have it, and it's still a business expense. That's one of those things, though. But you can't look at all the downside. You got to keep looking at the good side of things. So yes, everybody can start a business right now. All right? Doesn't matter what you're doing. If something's not working for you, change. Somebody's going to say BS, right now. Well, I can't. That's an excuse. I'm not gonna BS with you. I don't do excuses. Like, if something isn't working for you, if your life isn't going how you want it, change. There's a way to change. You know what you need to do. There's a reason. Use an excuse right now. Throw that out. Sit down. Have a big boy or big girl conversation with you and a couple pieces of paper, and figure out what you need to do. Make a plan. All right? Simple. What's not working? That's page 1. And page 2 is, how do I fix it? All right? And sometimes you might have to do page 1. Page 1's going to go real fast. Page 1's going to go real fast. Maybe between page 1 and page 2, you sleep for a couple hours. You take a night off. You get a fresh mindset, and then you hit page 2 in the morning after you had time to think about it. If you don't stay up that night, you didn't work too good. If you sleep like a baby that night, you didn't do good, because you should have all these things running through your mind. How do I fix this? You shouldn't be not thinking about those things. So when you go to sleep that night, pass out, wake up probably 5 or 6 hours later, and yes, you're going to have a couple of those already figured out, believe it or not. And then you can write them down. This is what I do, and then this is why I do that. And then the most important part, because it's easy to write stuff down. It's easy to come up with a plan. But the most important part, you execute. So, like, if you're on a shutdown right now, maybe you are a government worker or a military worker or whatever. You're military, you might be under a contract. Heck, government, you might be under a contract. And you can't do nothing about it. What you could do is maybe you can start something on the side. Maybe you do got 8 kids. Damn. Maybe you do got 8 kids, okay? Actually, I don't think you could do it with 8 kids. Maybe you got 2 kids. 2 kids, this will work. Maybe you got 2 kids. And maybe you start a daycare. All right. Now, I don't know how you're going to get the licensing, but whatever, because of the shutdown. But maybe you start a daycare, okay? And kind of deal like that. And maybe, you start a daycare and maybe you watch an additional 4 kids, and you get the insurance and all that stuff. I'm going to throw that out there. You get the insurance and all that stuff, everything in place in case, one of them does get hurt. You put all the insurance and all that in there, and you be honest with your landlord if you have one or whatever. And, you just do this whole thing. And then you're in a daycare, and because it's you, because your overhead's not stupid expensive, because you're not paying for advertising and dang, advertising and everything else, maybe you're going by word of mouth to get 2 or 3 kids. You can pretty much undercut the big guys, or the big one in your area that's charging $3,000. Maybe you can charge $600 per child, and after paying your insurance and everything else, the additional insurance and everything else for a month, you make an extra $300, and you're home anyway. You're watching the kids anyway, kind of deal. Now you got to do taxes and you got to do some things, taxes and get your license and get the insurance and do all the steps there. That's on that piece of paper. That's page 2. What do I need to do here? Or actually, no. First page is my mistakes or your screw ups. How do I fix this? It's page 2. And then page 3 is what do I need to do to fix this? And all that stuff is on page 3. Okay? And then page 4 is the plan. So, your long-term plan. Where am I going with this? Damn, I ain't going to take you upstairs. Maybe we'll take you upstairs. I'll take you upstairs. So, I'll show you. Holy cow, that little pug here almost took me out. Anyway, I'll take you upstairs here. And it's dark in here, come to think of it right now, because I got the automatic light off. Whatever. So, here we are. Oh, turn around. So yeah, here's my crazy rough plan. This is my page 4. So, here are step 1. $5,000 net for step 2. I did that. $6,000 net, get in July. Step 2, did that. Build the trailer for $800. That was, I did that in the spring. This is part 2 of that. This is going to be the second year. And then here we are. Step 3, buy squares, lawnmowers, and such. Bikes. I actually bought bikes earlier. I got to tear them all apart. And then step 4. I need $10,000. Need $12,000. Buy forklift, tractors, semi-tractors. Tractors, and then big money trucks to tear apart. But yeah, I mean, there you go. There's an example of a plan. And yeah, not perfect, but whatever. That's like the long-term deal. And like, this is like 4 years right here. I'm not telling you all the little things that I did to get to step 2. Step 2 is big. I'm not even there. I just built the trailer to accelerate me through 1. But I need to buy a second trailer next year worth $4,000. Because right now I'm renting that trailer. And I've only had to do it 2 times this year. But, it was only like $300 I had to rent that trailer. But yes, eventually I want to buy that trailer for $4,200. And that's used, mind you. And, and then that'll allow me to do step 3, which is more vehicles and something like that. And with the $800 trailer, I can still do lawnmowers and bikes and snowmobiles with the small trailer, which I got to put a hub on because I blew it out. And that'll happen in the spring. So I got to fix that in the spring. Then I can actually buy this trailer here in the spring of next year. So this is year 1. Here's year 2. And, year 3, probably year 4. And, but I can't just move to this. I got to move to this. And so you just got to come up with a plan. And yes, it's just, this wasn't supposed to be shown to others. This is just me, so just scribbled on here, but whatever, but yeah, so just come up with a plan. And it doesn't have to be a perfect plan. It doesn't have to be a great plan. It just has to be a plan of whatever. And the plan can change. Oh my God. It doesn't have to be a perfect deal. You can make a plan and modify it as you go. Maybe you decide you want to totally different along the way. You know, it can work. You can make it work. But right now, it's right now is a good time to put out plans and put out stuff. If you're on a shutdown or on a thing right now, you're probably stressing about cash. I get it. Things are going to happen. Maybe you lose a car. Maybe you lose a house. Maybe in the long run, that's the best thing that could happen. All right? Maybe, oh, that was something that I had a friend's dog over. That's what that was. I tripped over the little thing the dog left out. But yeah, maybe you got a maybe you lose your car. Okay, let's go with that. Maybe you got a loan where you were not so smart and you got a $700 a month loan and you probably got $400 insurance on that. Just I don't know how these numbers go, but that seems about right. So $700 payment and $400 insurance, you know, and you messed up and you lose that car. Okay? Because right now you're sitting on your butt because nobody's going to pay you right now because maybe you're out of a job or maybe you're whatever. Well, whatever. You lose that car, you take the credit hit, and maybe you go out and you set up something with somebody where you can barter something to buy another car. Maybe you sell that gaming computer that you built for $3,000. Maybe you sell that for $1,200, and you buy a clapped out ride that's reliable, and you did all your research, and it's a clapped out ride. It's rusty all to hell, but it'll get you around. So then you got a clapped out ride. Now you can get back and forth to a job that pays you $12 an hour, and you just push that through and grind. But what you don't have is a $20 an hour job with a a 7 and a 4 and $1,100 payment a month, where a quarter of your check is going towards that. Sure, you can probably pull it off there, but that's probably a quarter of your wage. That you'd be giving up and giving up and giving up and giving up. Then who knows? Maybe you get the car paid off for 4 years and then you lose it. And maybe you pay it off for 4 years and then you lose it. So the last 4 years are zero. I don't know. Everything's crazy right now. Just stick to it. And if you have time, use that time to make something work. And it doesn't have to be anything great, I know right now a lot of people can't afford insurance. Car insurance or other insurance. I just know this right now. And personally, I feel if you can't afford insurance, you shouldn't be driving. On the other hand, I understand it. And this isn't me saying drive without insurance or whatever, but I would understand it. That being said, if I was to hit somebody that didn't have insurance, they're at fault. But because you know how it works. If you weren't there, you wouldn't have got hit. So you're at fault. But if you weren't there legally. But whatever. So you can play with that later. But I would understand that. That being said, there's different ways to do different things. All right? I'm trying to shorten this up now. It's way too long. There's different ways to do different things. Every situation's different. And you just got to look at your situation. All right? Get past the, oh my God, everything's horrible. Don't look at it this way. Don't look at it that way. Don't look at everything's horrible. What am I going to do? You know, if you got to do your whole dealy for a day, maybe you got to go through and do your whatever, cry your eyes out or whatever for a night or two, you know. Okay, have that time. That's good. Day 2, tops. That third day, get back into it. Figure it out. Draw up your plan. All right? You had your, oh my God, this absolutely sucks. This and this and this. You know, that's great. Figure it out. Figure out a plan. Figure out a deal. And this doesn't, you don't even have to get like fired from a job to do this. This can be a job that you hate going to, but you're going there because you want to support your kids and your wife. You know, you have to do this job. Okay. You can be working that job and looking for another one while you're there. You're still there because you're still making money. And you got to make the money. You got to do the crap job. But while you're there, maybe you can be applying it 600 different places. You know, and I'm not going to tell you where, I mean, I've always been a 2-job person. I've always been a there's always opportunities everywhere kind of person, you know. But I'm not. Oh, there we are. If you're not working right now, that gives you time to find stuff to sell. Like, I'm sure you've seen the deals on Facebook or whatever, that the deal pops out right now. It's an amazing deal. But you got to get it right now. You got to be there right now. Well, you know what? You're working another 4 hours. Guess what? You're not getting that deal. Meanwhile, the person sitting at home can get snatched that deal. And then maybe they can take that and figure out a plan before they buy it, obviously. But maybe they can, okay, here. Somebody needs rent money yesterday. And they got a Nintendo Switch. Okay, there we are. How about that? They got a Nintendo Switch, or their kid has a Nintendo Switch that they bought them for Christmas. Sorry, kiddo. So they need that money yesterday. So yeah, they throw the thing up for, let's just go $50. I don't even know what they're worth. They throw it up for $50. You're at work. You can't grab it. You ain't going to be able to grab it for 4 hours. The guy that's sitting at home right now, maybe they can grab it. So they get the thing for $50. They throw it online on eBay or whatever, and then they sell it for, let's say, $200. And there you go. They just made an opportunity out of a bad time. Bad time is they're sitting at home. Maybe they're out of work. Okay, you got time to do this. You got the bins and all that. The Goodwill bins. You know, maybe you can go to the bins at 9 o'clock in the morning. Whereas somebody usually can't, kind of deal. You know, something like that. There is, for every downside, for every whatever, there's opportunities. And if you don't have your little dealie where you're upset, you know, have a day, maybe 2, all right, where you're, oh my God, whatever. But yeah, then suck it up and come up with a plan. And once you come up with a plan, execute that plan. You know, page 1, what screwed up? You know, where did I screw up? Be honest. You know, page 2, how do I fix it? Page 3, rough plan. Page 4, how do I execute it? Or, no. Yeah, page 3 is a plan, and then page 4 is how do I execute it in a rough timeline, you know? What do I got to do by this date? What do I got to do by this date? What do I got to do by this date to actually make this thing work? You know, if you know you need to, if you're in an apartment complex, I think I used this one already. If you're in an apartment complex, you know, everybody around you is getting thrown out because they just increased everybody's rent across the board, an extra $400, you know, and you know maybe you can survive another 3 months with how things are in your place, well, that means you got 3 months over a whole bunch of other people to stay there. Well, maybe if you're out of work right now, kind of deal, or whatever, maybe you work different shift than everybody else, you could kind of watch that dumpster, and maybe they're throwing stuff in that dumpster because they can't afford storage. You know, they're getting kicked out of their place. They got a whole place full of gizmos and who knows what that they're throwing away. So maybe you watch that dumpster. Maybe you sit in your car by that dumpster and you see somebody pull up or start throwing stuff away. Maybe they got a whole bunch of clothing. Maybe you can sell that clothing. Maybe they got a whole bunch of whatever. Maybe you can sell that whatever. You know, maybe you can make a profit on the stuff. You know, Facebook Marketplace, eBay, or any of the other ones, they make it easy to sell this stuff. And it's not perfect. It is what it is. You know, you got to do a whole bunch of work. You're going to have to do a whole bunch of planning, but it's possible. And that's just one example I can think of because you're in a bad spot, there is an opportunity. All right? Because you're not working when everybody else is working, there's an opportunity to do this. All right? Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to end right here and just figure out what you got to do. No matter how bad it is, there's always opportunities after that. No matter how bad it is. All right? I don't know. It's one of those deals where a lot of people are going to say, screw you. And a lot of people that have actually done it and been there will understand. But a lot of people who just want to cry for, instead of stopping after 2 days, they just want to keep going, or they want other people to feel sorry for them. They're just going to keep going. And I mean, I'm sorry, but I understand stuff happens, and I understand there's a lot of horrible and all this and that. But after like 4 or 5 days, I find it really hard to feel sorry for those people, especially if you yourself present them with opportunities and then they don't, and then they still use the feel sorry for them card. I don't know. If you've been there, you know what I mean. You've been on both sides of that, you know what I mean. So just focus on this bad thing happened. How do I turn it into an opportunity? Because it's going to happen. I don't care how good your plans are, how good everything is. No matter how it's going, something bad can happen. And the difference between somebody that keeps going after that, or somebody that turns that into a horrible life-changing event, this is where my entire life went bad, you know, or whatever excuse, versus somebody that takes that and says, I just lost my car that I was paying $700 a month on and $400 insurance on, and thank goodness it happened when I was 6 months into the thing instead of 4 years into it, you know, because at that point they were able to get into something cheaper, and then that way they were actually able to save more money, and because of that they were able to do something else and something else and something else, and it actually, despite being a horrible thing in the moment, in the long run it actually was a good thing. So yeah. Y'all have fun. I'm going to end it there. Thank you.